Team Penske today is one of the top teams in NASCAR, with 3 straight championships as well with Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney, and greats in the past like Rusty Wallace as well racing for them. There is a storied and great history for Team Penske, but there also was a bit of a middle ground. The time between when guys like Rusty Wallace were racing for Penske and Ryan Newman, and others later on, like Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and Brad Keselowski. The dark days. I would say 2006 to 2010. Now, granted, these are not as dark as some days are for teams, but for Penske standards, they were pretty low. So today, I want to look at these years and see, in general, how they really pushed and propelled Penske to this age of prosperity they're in now. Starting in 2006, the first year after Rusty Wallace retired, Wallace had kept the team afloat in difficult times and had been a great driver through this time as well. But when he retired, the two had to be filled, and at first it was rumored to be Jamie McMurray jumping over there, but he would end up filling the Roush spot that was left by the current now driver of the Blue Deuce in Kurt Busch. The 2004 champion had left Roush in a very unamicable way, and 2005 was just ugly on his legacy. He wanted to start new, and he started pretty well with a win at Bristol, but he was pretty mediocre for pretty much the whole year. He got that win and then 7 top 5s and 12 top 10s, but he was nowhere even near making the chase for the Nextel Cup. And when you add in that anytime he had an opportunity to win, something would happen, it was just a bad year all around. Now, Ryan Newman was the other really good driver along with Kurt Busch and previously Rusty Wallace to race for Team Penske. He started his career hot with 12 wins in a 4-year span, 8 of those coming in 2003, and competing to be the guy of Penske with Rusty Wallace, making the first 2 chase for the Nextel Cups. And in 2006, he took a few steps back, 18th in the point standings, and a complete non-factor after the Daytona 500. 2006 for Team Penske can be summed up in one word: mediocrity. Now, 2007 was a bit of an up, or bump at least up. Kurt Busch rebounded with tons of turbulence, starting rough at Daytona with Tony Stewart and crashing with him, and only getting rougher by Dover when he just got really overboard when it came to almost hitting a crew member on pit road. That would cost him a ton of points, putting him back to 17th in the standings halfway to the chase. But he put in a run for the ages, making his way back up and beating some very tough competition to do so, dominating both the Pocono August race as well as a Tuesday August race in Michigan. Finishing 7th in points, he had a huge rebound. He was nowhere near a championship contender, but it was the best the 2-car had been in quite a long time, actually. And when you add in that he had 3 crew chiefs in this year, it was even more impressive. Now, 2007 for Ryan Newman was a bit different. He moved from crew chief Matt Borland to Mike Nelson, and the performance did improve as overall as a team, Penske was better, but only being one of, if not the best non-chasers of the year. His highlight was nearly beating Jeff Gordon to the rain at Pocono, but, and it's a big but, he went winless and 13th in points that year. Not a great showing for the guy who, before 2006, had been a pretty darn good driver. 2008 is where things got really ugly. Kurt Busch had a huge downgrade, right to crippling mediocrity. He sat hovering around about 20th in points all season long, and his only win of the year at New Hampshire was due to luck with rain, and he was nowhere near competitive in that race, or really any race in 2008. And he was a non-factor in just about every way. Ryan Newman did open the season with the captain's first Daytona 500 victory, something that Rusty Wallace never could do for him and Kurt Busch hadn't done to that point, a 1-2 finish at that. Slowly, though, he faded into the middle of the pack, 17th and out the door for the newly formed SHR. Now, there was a third team that year, and I'll just cover his entire Penske Cup career really quickly here. And that was Sam Hornish Jr., part of the late 2000s, quote, open wheel invasion, as it was called at the time, and he was terrible. He didn't get a top 10 in his first year, and he was in the 30s most weeks, and he really never got above being a 25th place driver. A couple top 5s and top 10s here and there, but otherwise, Sam Hornish Jr. in Cup was known for crashing it up. Now, his Xfinity career later on was a great showing, and I think helped him in the eyes of a lot of fans have a legacy in NASCAR, but the Cup Series was not doing that. 2009 was an interesting kind of changing year. Kurt Busch did recover again, this time in the top 12 in points, and top 11 in the standings for all 36 races, something that not many others could say they've done in the Chase era. More or less, he was just the most consistent non-Hendrick guy, finishing 4th in the standings behind their 1-2-3 finish, and wins at Atlanta and a fuel mileage win by 26 seconds at Texas. It was actually a pretty darn good year, but a lot of people remember that for being the start of a bad period for Busch over the radio. One simply of rage. As for David Stremme, he was the man who replaced Ryan Newman in the number 12. And his year is utterly forgettable. No top 10s, 31st in the standings before being pulled out to put Brad Keselowski in the car. The most interesting part of that year is the fact that this Penske team really had no sponsorship. They had Alltel leave them when Ryan Newman left, and they picked up Verizon. They couldn't show their sponsor on the car, unfortunately, due to NASCAR's main series being at the time the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. 2010 was the year that you saw the light at the end of the tunnel. Kurt Busch was the consistent constant of the team. He had a slight downgrade in performance, but not as bad as previous years, and he was still competitive. He did win Atlanta, and he had won 2 races in 8 days with the All-Star race and the 600 back-to-back. He wasn't a chase factor and finished 11th, but still, he made it to that chase, which is better than a lot of Penske guys had done previously. The interesting point was with Brad Keselowski. His first full year in the Cup Series, he did win that race at Talladega in 2009 as a part-timer for Finch, but in this season, he was kind of a middle-of-the-road guy. The 12 team was a mess, and so only 2 top 10s were scored that year and 25th place finish in the points. But this was, with basically a rookie, an improvement over David Stremme. And he was remembered that year really for not great things. He was remembered for the flip at Atlanta, unfortunately. Once 2011 hit, you could tell that Penske was starting to move forward. This stage really helped build even better for a great 2010s and 2020s. During the 2010 season we previously talked about, Brad Keselowski did win Roger Penske's first NASCAR championship, this time with crew chief Paul Wolfe in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. The duo would be moved to the flagship number 2 in 2011, and after a slow start, they finished red hot, which led the momentum into 2012, where they won both Penske and Dodge a championship. Dodge leaving and opening the door for Ford to come in, which I personally think is what helped in a lot of ways. Penske not doing all that great with Dodge, and Dodge just not being the greatest in general, and all of that mixed together, meaning that they would leave, opened the door for Penske to be the main Ford team, as at the same time Roush Fenway was falling off a cliff. Kurt Busch in this time would go to the number 22 Pennzoil Dodge in 2011. He ran well, but faltered at the end of the season. His overly emotional outbursts, though, and just non-sponsor friendliness was what cost him, and he was not able to stay after 2011, and after a brief stint with AJ Allmendinger and Sam Hornish in the 22, they were able to bring Joey Logano in, and since he has won 3 championships. And with that, now they're one of the main teams up there with Hendrick and Gibbs, one of the best out there. And that's it. That was the dark years of Penske and how they led to something way better. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a good one.